Welcome back, everyone, to Have More Babies. We're the show that takes, sometimes complex health topics, especially around kids, and really tries to pull out the insights you need. Today, we are getting into atopic dermatitis. Most people just call it childhood eczema. And if you're a parent dealing with this, well, you already know rash just doesn't capture how uncomfortable and disruptive it is. So our goal today is to look past just the skin symptoms, understand the chronic side of it, the inflammation, and importantly, how to manage it based on what we've researched. Atopic dermatitis, by definition, is a chronic skin condition. That word chronic is key here. It means inflamed skin. Really itchy, often cracked. Super common in kids, but yeah, it can stick around or even start later in life.
Yeah, and I think the big mental shift needed is seeing it not just as like a one-off rash, but as managing something ongoing. It's not like a virus that clears up. It's more like a fundamental issue with the skin's barrier function. And that underlying problem, well, that really dictates everything about how you approach it long term.
Okay, let's unpack that then, the barrier function issue. Because if we understand the root cause, managing it gets easier, right? We see the red, itchy skin, obviously. But what's actually happening underneath that makes it so relentless?
So the absolute foundation is severe dry skin. It really comes down to a compromised skin barrier. Think of your skin barrier like a brick wall protecting you. In kids with atopic dermatitis, some of the bricks or the mortar, the proteins and fats in the skin, they're just not quite right. They're missing or defective. And when that wall has gaps, moisture gets out way too easily. That leads to the intense dryness and the cracking.
Right, and cracked skin isn't just sore, it's like leaving the door wide open for other problems.
Exactly. That broken barrier lets irritants and allergens in, which triggers more inflammation, but it also leads to secondary issues. The research we looked at really flags two big ones that honestly often affect quality of life even more than the rash itself.
Okay, what are they?
First one, sleep disturbances. The itching at night pruritus is the technical term. It can be incredibly intense. When the skin gets warm and dry under blankets, the itch just goes wild.
Yeah.
And not getting enough sleep, that affects the child's mood, their development, and frankly, it affects the whole family's well-being.
Oh, absolutely. I can only imagine. And the second issue?
The second is the risk of infections. This one's clinically quite serious because the child is scratching that itchy skin constantly. They're physically damaging that already weak barrier. This lets bacteria and other pathogens get in. And here's the key thing. Eczema-prone skin often has a lot of Staphylococcus aureus bacteria just living on it. So when they scratch, they can push that bacteria deeper into the broken skin. That can lead to some nasty secondary infections that really need medical treatment, sometimes antibiotics.
Wow. So it's a triple threat almost. The barrier failure, the scratching it causes, and then this vulnerability to bacteria like staph. Understanding that cycle feels really crucial for parents. Okay, so if that's the reality of the condition, how do we figure out what makes it flare up for a particular child? To manage it effectively, you have to play detective, right? What are the main triggers we should know about? How do you identify them?
Yeah, the detective work is spot on. The sources we reviewed group the triggers pretty neatly, which helps. The first category is probably the most common, allergens. These are things in the environment you breathe in or touch. Think pollen, dust mites, those microscopic things in bedding and carpets, or pet dander. Reducing exposure is key here, though completely eliminating them can be tough.
Okay, allergens. What's next?
Second group, irritants. These are things that directly annoy that already sensitive skin barrier. This is where you need to be really vigilant. We're talking about things like harsh soaps, bubble baths, strong laundry detergents, anything with fragrances. For skin this sensitive, those things can feel like pouring salt on a wound.
Makes sense. Simple swaps can make a big difference there, potentially. And the third category. This one connects mind and body, right?
That's right, it's stress. Now, stress or anxiety don't cause atopic dermatitis itself, but boy, can they make it worse. Emotional stress triggers hormone releases that ramp up inflammation and actually lower the threshold for itching. So a manageable patch can suddenly become a really severe flare-up just because of stress. Managing the child's emotional environment becomes part of the skincare plan, really.
That holistic view is so important. Okay, so we've got potential triggers. Let's say a parent sees the signs, suspects eczema. What happens when they go to the doctor? How is it officially diagnosed? And how do they pinpoint those specific triggers for that child?
Diagnosis isn't usually just one thing, it's putting pieces together. First step is a careful skin examination. A doctor or nurse practitioner looks at the rash itself, what it looks like, where it is. Eczema often shows up in classic spots, like behind the knees or in elbow creases.
Okay, visual check first.
Second, and this is a big clue, is taking a thorough medical history. They'll specifically ask about family history of what we call atopic conditions. Eczema often travels with friends, you know. It's part of the atopic march, meaning kids with eczema are more likely to also develop asthma, hay fever, or food allergies. So if those run in the family, it makes atopic dermatitis much more likely.
Right, that family link is strong. And that leads to the third step, which is more definitive.
Exactly. Allergy testing. This is often crucial to figure out which specific things are causing the reactions. It could be skin prick tests or blood tests. This helps identify environmental triggers like dust mites or sometimes even food triggers. Getting that specific information is powerful because then you can target your avoidance strategies instead of just guessing.
Knowing is definitely better than guessing when you're dealing with something chronic like this. Okay, we understand the problem, the triggers, the diagnosis. Let's talk solutions. How do we actually treat this and bring some comfort back?
The approach is really twofold. You need things for immediate relief during flare-ups, and then ongoing strategies for long-term prevention. For the immediate flare-ups, the medical approach focuses on calming the inflammation and stopping that relentless itch. There are sort of three main tools in the toolkit here. First, topical steroids. These are creams or ointments used for a limited time on active, inflamed patches to really bring down that redness and swelling.
Okay, steroids for the bad patches.
Second, antihistamines. These are mainly used to help control the itching, especially at night. If you can reduce the nighttime scratching, the child sleeps better, the skin barrier gets a chance to heal. It's a huge help.
Makes sense. Sleep is critical. And the third pillar.
The third, and honestly the foundation of all management, is emollients, moisturizers.
Let's pause on emollients, because everything I read really hammered this point home. This isn't just like a nice body lotion, is it?
Absolutely not. It is the single most important thing. If the skin barrier is that leaky wall we talked about, emollients are like patching the holes. You need to apply them constantly. Thick, rich, bland moisturizers. Multiple times a day, they work by trapping moisture in the skin and creating a temporary physical barrier against irritants. And the golden rule is moisturize even when the skin looks good. This is prevention. You're trying to keep the wall intact before it breaks down.
Right, proactive, not just reactive.
Okay.
Okay, that covers the medical side. But you mentioned long-term strategies, too. This is where the lifestyle stuff comes in, right? The everyday things at home.
Exactly. This goes beyond the pharmacy. Number one is what we already touched on, avoiding triggers. Once you've identified them through testing or careful observation, whether it's dust mites, pet dander, a certain soap, you have to be really diligent about removing or minimizing them. That might mean specific cleaning routines, hypoallergenic bedding, fragrance-free, everything. It's about creating a safe environment for that sensitive skin.
Defense first. Got it. What
Yeah.
else?
Another practical tip that came up is using humidifiers, especially in winter when indoor heating makes the air really dry, or if you live in a dry climate. Keeping the air humidity at an optimal level means the skin loses less moisture naturally. It just helps everything else, including the emollients, work better.
Simple, but makes sense. Keep the air moist so the skin stays moist.
And the last piece, tying back to that individualized approach, is potentially dietary adjustments. Now, this isn't saying every child with eczema needs to cut out foods, but for some kids, certain foods might make symptoms worse. It requires careful observation, maybe keeping a food diary, and working closely with your pediatrician or an allergist. If a food trigger is identified, then adjusting the diet becomes another tool in the management plan.
That personalized aspect seems key throughout, from triggers to diet. Okay, so pulling it all together. Managing atopic dermatitis effectively sounds like this constant balance. You need the medical treatments like steroids for flare-ups, maybe antihistamines for itch, but underpinned by that relentless daily moisturizing. And then layered on top is this whole lifestyle piece. Avoiding known triggers, managing the home environment like humidity, and even considering stress and potentially diet. It's a full-time job, really.
It really is. It requires a sustained effort. And, thinking bigger picture, managing a chronic condition like this often connects to other aspects of a child's health. When a child isn't sleeping well, is constantly uncomfortable, that impacts everything. The sources we looked at even mentioned things like specific forms needed for school management in Georgia, or links to screening for related issues like asthma, ADHD, or autism.
That's a really important point. It's rarely just about the skin in isolation, is it? Caring for a child with a chronic issue means seeing the whole picture, how different challenges might connect. You really need a healthcare partner who gets that interconnectedness.
Absolutely. So if you're listening and this sounds familiar, if your child is struggling with eczema that just won't quit, and you're looking for that kind of expert advice, help with diagnosis, finding triggers, setting up a really solid management plan, then, well, seeking a consultation is definitely the right next move.
Yeah, getting that comprehensive pediatric care can bring clarity and, honestly, a lot more peace to your home. For more details on the kinds of services that can help things like acute care for flare-ups, preventive strategies, even after-hours support, which is so vital with chronic conditions, we definitely recommend checking out omegapediatrics.com.
That's right. They provide that kind of expert guidance for families dealing with atopic dermatitis and similar conditions. And they serve a broad area in Georgia, Alpharetta, Roswell, Milton, and those surrounding cities. You can find resources and service details right there on their website, omegapediatrics.com.
So if this conversation helped you understand childhood eczema a bit better, maybe gave you some new strategies to think about, please do us a small favor. Like this video, subscribe to our channel for more deep dives like this, and maybe share it with another parent or caregiver who could use this information.
Until next time, stay informed, stay proactive.
Goodbye, everyone.